The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from over 200 species filled the room, their voices mixing into a storm of worried chatter. Emergency sessions were rare, and this one had been called with almost no warning. High Counselor Xylith, a tall blue-skinned being from the Araxian Confederation, raised all four of his arms. The room slowly quieted. "Members of the Council, we face a situation without precedent," Xylith said. His voice was calm, but his inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress for his kind. "Our monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures from the Sol system. The humans appear to be building spacecraft. Not simple vessels, but generation ships of extraordinary size." The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed massive structures in orbit around Earth and Mars. Some were nearly complete, others still under construction. Each was many miles long. "We have ignored the warnings," said Counselor Darwin, an older reptilian with dull gold scales. "For decades, human representatives told us they needed more resources, more territory. We denied them at every turn. They are a young species," snapped a small furry delegate. "Barely 2 centuries since they achieved faster-than-light travel. The restrictions were for their own good." The doors at the far end of the chamber slid open. A hush fell over the assembly as a single human walked in. He was tall for his kind, with gray hair and a neatly trimmed beard. Ambassador Gregory Wells had represented Earth for the past 8 years. Everyone in the room recognized him. Gregory walked to the center of the chamber with unhurried steps. He carried a small metal box under one arm. The council members watched in silence as he placed it on the central platform. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," Gregory said. His voice was steady and clear. "I come before you today with humanity's formal notice of departure from the Galactic Compact." Gasps and cries filled the room. Some delegates stood up, others pounded on their consoles. "This is not possible," shouted one. "No species can simply leave the compact," yelled another. Gregory waited for the noise to subside. "The decision has been made. Earth and all human colonies will depart this region of space. We have developed technology that allows us to seek our future elsewhere." "Ambassador Wells," said Xylith, his voice suddenly tired, "your people cannot possibly have solved the problems of long-distance space travel, the energy requirements alone." 30 years ago, Gregory interrupted, Dr. Olivia Morgan discovered the theoretical framework for what we now call the fold drive. When she presented her findings to this very council, you dismissed them as impossible. The chamber grew silent as many remembered that day. A young human scientist had stood where Gregory now stood, excitedly explaining a new way to travel between stars. The council's science division had declared her ideas impossible and denied her funding. "We continue the research in secret," Gregory said. "Now we have working fold drives large enough to move our entire population." He pressed a button on the metal box. It opened to reveal a small glowing crystal, a data storage device. "This contains our formal withdrawal, as well as the coordinates where you may send a single unarmed vessel if you wish to establish diplomatic relations in the future." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some members shouted for security, others demanded explanations. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Gregory turned and walked toward the exit. His final duty as ambassador was complete. As he reached the door, he glanced back at the council, the most powerful governing body in this part of the galaxy, now thrown into disarray by humanity's decision. "You had your chance," he said quietly, though no one could hear him over the noise. "Too late to fix it now." The doors slid closed behind him. 3 days after Ambassador Wells' shocking announcement, the Galactic Council gathered again. The initial panic had settled into a grim determination to understand what had happened. Council historian Zara Vex stood at the center of the chamber, her delicate purple skin reflecting the light from the holographic displays around her. "To comprehend humanity's departure, we must examine their relationship with the galactic community from the beginning," she said. Her 6-fingered hands moved gracefully, bringing up images from 2 centuries earlier. The display showed a rugged human man in a mining suit floating near an asteroid. His eyes were wide with shock as he stared at something outside the frame. John Carpenter, Zora explained, the asteroid miner who first encountered the Galactic Council scout ship in 2218, humanity's first contact with our community. The image shifted to show crowds of humans celebrating in streets all over Earth. Their faces shone with hope and excitement. First contact brought great optimism to Earth, Zora continued. Humans believed joining the galactic community would solve their resource problems and bring new technologies. Counselor Darwin shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The old reptilian remembered those early days well. They learned quickly that they were far behind most species technologically, Zora said, and that the Council's resource-sharing policies were designed to maintain balance, not to solve the problems of newcomers. The display changed again, showing a series of human representatives over the decades. Each looked increasingly frustrated as they addressed the Council. Humans are used to rapid growth and expansion, Zora explained. Our restrictions were foreign to their way of thinking. Counselor Darwin stood up slowly. I personally denied Earth's petition for expanded access to helium-3 deposits 40 years ago, he admitted. Their fusion technology was deemed too inefficient to warrant increased quotas. Many in the chamber nodded. Such decisions were common. Resources were finite, and the Council had managed them for millennia. The display shifted to show human news broadcasts. A movement called the Home Solution had gained popularity on Earth about 15 years ago. Its supporters argued that humanity should focus on self-sufficiency rather than integration with the galactic community. We dismissed this as a fringe political movement, Zora said. We failed to recognize it as the beginning of humanity's exodus plan. Another image appeared. A human scientist with a serious expression and gray hair. Dr. Benjamin Howard, Zora identified him. One of Earth's brightest minds and a Council science advisor for 20 years. He resigned suddenly 5 years ago, claiming he wished to teach at a university on Earth. Now we understand he was likely recruited to work on the Fold Drive, Zora added. The chamber was silent as the Council members absorbed this information. They had missed the warning signs, dismissing human complaints as the natural growing pains of a young species joining the galactic community. What about their technology? Asked a bird-like Council member. The Fold Drive should be impossible given their development level. Zora's expression grew troubled. We have discovered that human scientific progress was consistently underestimated in our reports. Their approach is different, more intuitive, less structured, and our assessment methods failed to account for this. The holographic display showed the massive human ships again, now with energy readings overlaid. The numbers were staggering. They hid their true capabilities from us, someone muttered. No, Zora corrected. We simply did not look closely enough. We saw what we expected to see. A young, struggling species that needed guidance and restrictions. We never imagined they would choose to leave rather than accept our vision of their place in the galaxy. Counselor Darwin looked at the images of the human ships. Perhaps, he said quietly, we should have listened more and lectured less. Around the chamber, many Council members nodded in silent agreement. But it was indeed too late to fix it now. Kate Lewis moved silently through the abandoned research facility on Mars. The red dust had settled on every surface, but her trained eye noticed the lack of footprints other than her own. This place wasn't truly abandoned. It had been carefully emptied and made to look deserted. As Special Investigator for Earth Intelligence, Kate had spent years hiding her activities from galactic surveillance. Today's mission was perhaps her most important. Retrieve the final data cores from this facility before the Council's agents found it. She reached the central laboratory and placed her palm on a hidden scanner. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a small room with a single computer terminal. Kate smiled. The Council would never find this place on their own. Human ingenuity had its advantages. Across the solar system, Commander Alan Porter led a team of Council enforcement agents, toward a suspected human manufacturing site in the asteroid belt. Their sleek ship, built with the most advanced galactic technology, approached cautiously. No signs of activity, reported his second-in-command. The energy signatures we detected earlier have disappeared. Alan frowned. This had happened 3 times already. Every time they followed a lead, they found nothing. It was as if the humans could predict their movements. Suddenly, warning lights flashed across his control panel. A net of energy had activated around their ship, freezing it in place. What is this technology? Alan demanded. No one had an answer. A message appeared on their main screen. Council vessel, you have entered restricted space. Your systems will be disabled for 30 minutes. Then you will be released to return to your designated monitoring zone. Further intrusions will result in longer detention periods. Alan's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. This was the 4th time his team had been caught in one of these traps. The humans were playing with them. In the council chamber, the emergency session continued. A tech specialist displayed a complex diagram on the main screen. We have discovered that humanity has been systematically removing its presence from our databases for years, the specialist explained. Information about their resource usage, technology development, and even population statistics has been subtly altered or deleted. How is this possible? Demanded a council member. Our systems are secure. They used our trust against us, replied the specialist. Human technicians have maintained parts of our network for decades. We gave them access, never imagining they would use it this way. The diagram expanded to show the asteroid belt. New data points appeared, revealing massive manufacturing operations hidden in areas the council rarely monitored. They have been stockpiling resources for at least 15 years, continued the specialist. Building materials, fuel, food, everything needed for their exodus. An older council member stood up. 1 year ago, the human scientists demonstrated what they called a fold drive prototype. It created a small spatial distortion in a laboratory. We dismissed it as a minor achievement with no practical application. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had shown them their new technology, and the council had failed to recognize its importance. In the Mars facility, Kate downloaded the final data cores. These contained the complete fold drive specifications, humanity's ticket to freedom. She knew similar missions were happening across the solar system as humans erased all traces of their most advanced research. Kate looked at her watch. In just 48 hours, the first-generation ships would begin their departure sequence. The council was scrambling to understand what was happening, but they were too late. Humanity had planned this for years, working quietly while the galactic species underestimated them. As she prepared to leave, Kate thought about the future. Where would humanity go? The coordinates were a closely guarded secret. All she knew was that it would be far from here, far from the restrictions and dismissal they had faced for so long. The council had never taken humans seriously. Now they would learn their mistake. But by then, humanity would be gone. The Galactic Council's emergency session had lasted for 5 days straight. Sleep-deprived representatives finally reached a decision that many had been pushing for since the beginning. The vote is concluded, announced High Counselor Xylith. By a margin of 118 to 83, the Council authorizes the use of military force to prevent humanity's unauthorized departure. Orders went out immediately to the Galactic Defense Fleet. Hundreds of warships began moving toward the Sol system. Their mission: stop the human exodus by any means necessary. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Wright stood before a wall of screens in the Global Defense Command Center. Each screen showed a different part of the massive operation unfolding across the solar system. The largest generation ships were moving into their departure positions, while smaller vessels transported the last groups of humans to their assigned ships. "Admiral, we have confirmation of galactic fleet movements," reported a young officer. "Multiple battle groups are converging on our system. Estimated arrival time: 14 hours. Lisa nodded. They had expected this. "Activate the defense grid." Full coverage, maximum power. Across the solar system, thousands of small satellites activated. Each one was a simple device, easy to dismiss as harmless observation equipment. Together, they formed Earth's final protection, a shield that would give the generation ships time to depart. In orbit above Earth, Council Ambassador Eric Sanders made his final plea. Although human by birth, he had spent most of his life representing the Council's interests to Earth. Now he found himself caught between worlds. President Miller, the Council is preparing military action, Eric said to the screen showing Earth's leader. There's still time to negotiate. The Council might be willing to reconsider some restrictions. Daniel Miller shook his head. It's too late for that, Eric. For 200 years, we tried to work within their system. We were patient. We followed their rules. And at every turn, they treated us like children. The Council believes the fold drive technology is too dangerous to be used on this scale, Eric argued. They fear what they don't understand, Daniel interrupted. And they fear a future where humans are their equals, not their subordinates. The conversation ended as Eric's ship received orders to withdraw to a safe distance. The Council didn't want to risk losing their ambassador in what might soon become a conflict zone. As his ship pulled away, Eric saw the full scale of humanity's preparation for the first time. The generation ships were enormous, each one a city in space, designed to sustain hundreds of thousands of people for the journey to their new home. 20 such vessels were now visible, moving into a formation around Earth. On every screen across the planet, Admiral Wright addressed humanity. Citizens of Earth, the time has come. The Galactic Council has rejected our right to determine our own future. Their fleet approaches with the intent to stop our departure by force. Across the solar system, humans watched her speak. Some were already aboard the generation ships, others were preparing for their final transports. We have activated our defensive grid, Lisa continued. It will create an impenetrable barrier around our solar system, giving our ships the time they need to activate their fold drives and depart. On the main Council warship approaching the Sol system, Fleet Commander Thrix received new intelligence. The humans have activated some kind of defensive system, an officer reported. Our sensors can't determine its capabilities. Thrix had fought in many conflicts during his long career, but never against humans. They were considered a minor species, barely worth military attention. Now he wondered if that assessment had been a mistake. In a final broadcast to the approaching Galactic Fleet, President Miller delivered humanity's ultimatum to the Galactic Council forces. We seek only to leave in peace. Allow us free passage, and there will be no conflict. Attempt to stop us, and you will face the full extent of technologies we have hidden from you for decades. The choice is yours. As the Galactic Fleet approached the edge of the solar system, both sides prepared for a confrontation that would determine the fate of humanity. Fleet Commander Thrix stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the glowing barrier that now surrounded the entire Sol system. Nothing in his 300 years of military service had prepared him for this. The humans, a species the Council had always viewed as technologically inferior, had created a defensive system unlike anything in known space. Send in the probe ships, Thrix ordered. Minimal crew, maximum sensors. Let's see what we're dealing with. 5 small vessels broke from the fleet formation and approached the barrier. Their mission was to test its strength and find potential weaknesses. The Galactic Council members watched the feed from their emergency chamber, collectively holding their breath. The first probe touched the barrier. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy spread from the contact point. The probe ship didn't explode or break apart. It simply went dark, all systems instantly disabled. The same happened to the second and third probes. The fourth and fifth turned to retreat, but smaller pulses shot out from the barrier, striking them with perfect accuracy. They, too, went dark. Remarkable precision, Thrix muttered. They could have destroyed those ships, but they chose to disable them instead. Back on Earth, Captain Susan Cooper watched the encounter from the bridge of the HFY Guardian, positioned near one of the massive generation ships. Her vessel was one of the few military ships not converted for the Exodus. Its purpose was simple: maintain communication with the galactic forces and buy time if needed. Captain Cooper to Galactic Fleet. Susan transmitted, "Your probe ships have been disabled, not destroyed. Their crews are unharmed. The ships will regain minimal power in approximately 30 minutes, enough to return to your fleet." After a brief pause, Commander Thrix responded, "This is unprecedented technology for your species. The Council was not aware humans possessed such capabilities." Susan allowed herself a small smile. "There's much the Council doesn't know about us, Commander. That was their mistake." In the Council chamber, scientists listened to this exchange with growing concern. Dr. Frank Winters, one of the few human scientists who had chosen to remain with the Council, tried to explain. "The fold drive isn't just a propulsion system," Frank said, pointing to simulation data. "It manipulates the fabric of space-time in ways we previously thought impossible. The defensive barrier likely uses similar principles on a smaller scale." "Why did they hide this technology?" demanded a council member. Frank looked around the room. "Because you would have taken it from them. You would have decided humans weren't ready for such power, just as you've decided so many things for them over the past 2 centuries. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some council members began to argue that negotiation might be wiser than confrontation. Perhaps humanity deserved more respect than they had been given. On the main generation ship, the Pride of Terra, Dr. Olivia Morgan watched the final preparations for departure. Her fold drive, the work of a lifetime, was about to take humanity to a new home among the stars. At 78 years old, she had lived to see her theory become reality. Dr. Morgan, call a young engineer. "The drive is at 90% charge, all systems nominal." Olivia nodded. In just a few hours, they would leave this solar system forever. The thought filled her with both excitement and sadness. Commander Thrix received new orders from the Council. A faction led by the more militaristic species had won a narrow vote. Full assault on Section 12 of the barrier. The orders read, "Breakthrough at all costs." Thrix organized his fleet. 100 warships moved into position, targeting a single section of the human barrier. If they could create even a small breach, they might be able to stop this exodus. As the galactic ships charged their weapons, Susan Cooper sent a final message. "Commander Thrix, we have detected your fleet movements. We know what you're planning. I urge you to reconsider. This barrier is only our first line of defense." But the decision had been made. The galactic fleet opened fire, unleashing their full power against humanity's shield. The battle for Earth's future had begun. The massive generation ships hummed with energy as their fold drives began the startup sequence. On the Pride of Terra, Dr. Olivia Morgan watched the power levels rise on her monitor. After decades of work, her creation was about to take humanity to the stars. "All ships report ready status," announced the ship's captain over the intercom. "Full drive activation in 30 minutes. Outside the protective barrier, Commander Thrix led the galactic fleet in their assault. 100 warships fired their most powerful weapons at a single section of Earth's defensive shield. The barrier glowed brightly where the attacks hit, but showed no signs of weakening. "Increase power to all weapons," Thrix ordered. "Concentrate fire on the same coordinates." The assault continued for 10 minutes. The barrier absorbed everything the galactic fleet threw at it. Then, without warning, the section of the barrier they were attacking expanded outward. Before Thrix could order evasive action, the energy pulse struck 20 of his ships. Their systems shut down instantly, leaving them drifting in space. "Impossible," whispered Thrix. The humans had not only created an impenetrable defense, but they could also use it to strike back with stunning precision. Had the Council truly underestimated this species so badly? In the Galactic Council chamber, the live feeds showed the failed assault. Many members sat in stunned silence. Some of the older species began to discuss what this meant for the power balance in the galaxy. "We must consider the possibility that humans are more advanced than we believed," said Counselor Darwin. "Perhaps we should negotiate rather than continue this attack." In a small laboratory on one of the Council's monitoring stations, Dr. Maria Jones worked quickly. Though human by birth, she had spent 20 years working for the Council. Few knew that she had always remained loyal to Earth, sending information back whenever she could. Now she had one final mission. The Council scientists had developed a weapon they believed could disrupt the human barrier. Maria had been part of the team, learning its weaknesses. Now she carefully adjusted the firing controls, ensuring that when deployed, the weapon would fail spectacularly. "For Earth," she whispered as she completed her sabotage. Back on the Pride of Terra, Olivia Morgan received word that the defensive barrier was holding. "The Galactic Fleet is regrouping," reported Admiral Wright. "They appear to be preparing another attack." "It doesn't matter," Olivia replied. "We're almost ready. The fold drives will activate in 10 minutes. Across the solar system, humans gathered around view screens to watch the departure. Even those already aboard the ship stood at windows, wanting to see their home one last time before leaving forever. On the Galactic flagship, Commander Thrix received new orders. "Deploy the disruption weapon," the message read. "This is our final auction." Thrix gave the command. The weapon, a device that had taken the Council's best scientists years to develop, moved into position. It powered up, aimed at the human barrier, and fired. What should have been a beam of focused energy that could unravel the barrier's structure instead erupted into a harmless burst of light. The weapon had failed completely. In the Council chamber, panicked discussions broke out. They had no other options. Humanity was about to escape their control forever. Aboard the Pride of Terra, the final countdown began. Olivia Morgan stood before the main control panel, her hand hovering over the activation switch. Around her, the ship's crew waited in silent anticipation. "For all of us who were told we couldn't, we shouldn't, we mustn't," Olivia said quietly. "This is our answer." She pressed the switch. The fold drive activated, creating a spectacular light show visible across the solar system. Space itself seemed to bend around the massive ship. Then, in a flash that briefly outshone the sun, the Pride of Terra disappeared. One by one, the other generation ships activated their drives. Each vanished in the same brilliant flash, leaving behind only empty space where a ship had been moments before. From the Galactic Fleet, Commander Thrix watched in silence. There was nothing he could do but witness humanity's departure. The species that the Council had dismissed for so long was gone, taking their remarkable technology with them. 1 month after humanity's departure, the Galactic Council convened to assess what many now called the human situation. The chamber was quieter than usual, with many representatives still processing the shock of what had happened. High Counselor Xylith looked tired as he called the session to order. "Today we begin our formal inquest into the exodus of humanity from our space. We must understand what happened and what it means for our future." Reports from across the galaxy painted a troubling picture. Human colonies on distant worlds had also vanished, their populations gone, and most of their structures dismantled. Only automated messages remained, similar to the one left in the Sol system. "We have gone to find our own path. Do not follow." "The economic impact has been significant," reported a financial advisor. "Human-produced goods and services have disappeared from markets across 17 sectors. Prices are rising as supplies dwindle." Another concerning development was the discovery that many non-humans had departed with their human friends. Entire communities of mixed species had vanished, leaving only farewell messages. "They took our people with them," protested one council member. "This goes beyond their right to leave. Our investigation shows that all who left did so by choice," countered Counselor Darwin. "Perhaps we should ask why they chose to go with the humans rather than stay with us." The most disturbing reports came from worlds with heavy council presence. Critical systems had begun failing. Systems that had been maintained by human technicians for decades. It appeared the humans had left behind carefully programmed failures that would take years to fully understand and fix. This was a planned act of sabotage, claimed a military representative. No, corrected a technical advisor. This was insurance. The systems will fail gradually, giving us time to learn how to maintain them ourselves. They did not wish to harm us, only to ensure we would not pursue them. In a small meeting room away from the main chamber, a group of senior council members gathered around a strange object. It was a cube made of an unknown material, floating above the table without support. "We found this in the former human embassy," explained a security officer. "It appears to be quantum locked. Our scientists believe it will open only once specific conditions are met." As they discussed what to do with the mysterious cube, it suddenly activated. A hologram appeared above it, the face of Dr. William Clark, one of humanity's most respected philosophers. "Greetings, council members," the hologram said. "If you are seeing this message, then humanity has successfully departed your space. I leave this record to explain why we made this choice." The council members listened as William's hologram spoke of humanity's frustration with centuries of restrictions and dismissal. He explained how humans had gradually realized they would never be true equals in the galactic community. "We do not leave in anger," William said. "We leave because we must find our own way. Perhaps someday our paths will cross again, and we can meet as equals rather than as guardian and ward." The message ended with the coordinates of a distant star cluster, too far for any council ship to reach with current technology. "If you develop technology similar to our fold drive and wish to speak with us again, you may find us here in 1,000 years. We hope by then both our peoples will have grown wiser." As the hologram faded, the cube dissolved into dust. In the days that followed, the council debated whether to pursue humanity or let them go. Some argued for developing their own version of the fold drive to follow the humans. Others believed it was better to respect their decision to leave. Far from the debates in politics, a small scout ship detected an unusual signal from an unexplored sector. The pilot, curious about the strange energy pattern, moved closer to investigate. What she found would eventually make its way back to the council, evidence that humanity had not gone as far as they claimed. They had merely moved beyond the council's reach to build something new. The pilot recorded the signal and set course for home, carrying the first clue to humanity's true destination. But by the time the council would understand what it meant, humanity would be well established in their new home among the stars, free at last from the restrictions that had held them back for so long.